you got to realize that whatever you're doing, you're competing with somebody. What is it that gives you an advantage over your competition? Whatever you're good at, try to be great at it. And if you're great at it, good things will happen.
Maverick.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. This is the Maverick Podcast. I'm your host, DJ Maverick. Today, we are rolling out the red carpet. Once again, we've got the super talented host of the Liquor Connoisseurs, the one and only Crystal and Roger. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, great to be here.
Great to be here.
I'm super excited. Before we dive into everything, maybe for the 1% of the people that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself. We'll start with ladies first.
Hi, I'm Crystal. I am co-host and founder of the Liquor Connoisseur. This was an idea we had about 3 years ago and finally brought to life in July of this year. And just really happy to share and educate those on alcohol.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, well, I'm Roger. Pretty much the same thing. We're just cutting our teeth in this game. We got established 2020 and just started shooting recently and trying to get some speed up.
So maybe tell me how you started to build that collection. How'd you get into liquor in the first place? That's a real interesting thing, I think.
So we got married back in 2008, so about 15 years ago. And shortly after we got married, we bought a house, and we always had parties. So we always say BC before child. We were cool.
Okay.
We'd have liquor contests with our friends. You know, pick a bottle, top two shelves, and let's see what wins. Our friends were not as educated as us, as we learned.
Yeah.
And so Peppermint Schnapps beat my Don Julio 1942.
What?
Right. I was highly upset, but Roger said the house could not win.
Okay.
He almost got put out the house.
Nice.
But we since started educating our friends. We were learning your family's big into alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
Very
Okay.
responsible drinkers. And we learned a lot from them, and we just passed it on to our friends. And so the next time we did a tasting, it was actually a lot better. And Peppermint Schnapps did not win.
Awesome. So when you say top two shelves, is that because usually the higher quality stuff is up at the top? Or?
Yeah,
Yes.
we try to steer people away from the bottles that you can squeeze, the little
Okay.
plastic ones,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
the ones that are real low, and like, we're too old for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can do better.
Yeah. I feel like it's intimidating to get into liquor if you don't know what you're doing, especially like wine or something like that.
Yeah.
Like knowing what pairs with what, or like what's good, what's not. And then prices, they don't always dictate the quality of
Yes.
what's good,
Absolutely.
right?
That is very true. But it's been great seeing the curation of our collection over the last 15 years because, of course, out of college, it started with a lot of vodka.
Yeah.
And then it was flavors and mixers. And now a lot of it is just neat. It's almost like a liquor store itself, our collection.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what would you recommend? Maybe give us a background because I'm not as well versed as you guys for sure. So like, what are the different families? We got vodkas, we got tequilas, we got whiskeys. Like, what are the different categories of liquor?
Okay, so you got your vodkas, your gins. On the tequila side, you have the tequilas, you have the
Mezcals, sotols.
Yep. Yeah. And whiskey, I mean, that's just, you've got bourbon, you have rye, you have scotch.
Yeah.
It's just a wide range in whiskey. And then, of course, all cognac is brandy.
Okay.
But, you know, they're called two different things. And most people are like, oh, yeah, I drink brandy. And this is cognac. And it's like, yeah, they're the same. But cognac is just from a certain region.
Interesting.
So,
Okay.
yeah. And you just find a lot of good stuff. So,
Yeah. Do you guys dive into wines at all or anything outside of just straight liquor, or is it always liquor?
Very little. So
Yeah.
we have a
It's-
small wine collection. And
Yeah, but if it is wine, it's an alcohol finished in a wine cask.
I see. Okay. Cool. So what was like your first introduction? It's probably like, if it was like my story, it's probably like super horrible. You're in college, something cheap, right? So what was like, you remember the first like introduction?
So for me, straight liquor, it was Everclear. Okay.
You had a good introduction.
No,
Not
that
too
was
bad.
Terrible. That was a terrible idea.
It's dangerous for sure.
Wait till you hear mine.
Nobody should drink Everclear. Nobody should drink Everclear straight. It even tells you not to.
Yeah.
And we were mixing it with lots of juices, and so that just means hangover. And the juice wasn't good juice; it was Hawaiian punch, or stuff like that.
Awesome.
That is going to hurt you, and that's where you get the headache in the morning. You're
Yeah.
like, why does this hurt so much? Bad sugar. and high volumes of alcohol.
Okay.
And so that was a terrible introduction for me. I didn't step in light at all. What was yours?
That was light. I had Montezuma tequila
Oh, wow.
with some Welch's grape.
Oh, the squeeze
Awesome.
bottle.
Yes, yes.
That's an interesting combination, too.
It should never be mixed.
Yeah.
Those are two separate things that do not go together like oil and water.
Yeah, because I think usually like probably vodkas get mixed more than tequila, right?
Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
Got to use what you got.
Yeah. So then you sort of started to develop your palate. Like, how did you get into like liquor overall? You said your family has a background.
Yeah. Well, in college, I also made a point to just get something new when I went to the liquor store. I was like, okay, so now that I'm 21, we're going to graduate next year, whatever. I want to make sure every time I go to the liquor store, I get something that nobody else is picking up. So let's just go find that that cognac that nobody gets. Everybody buys a certain brand. It's real big and popular, but let me try this other one. One, it's a little bit cheaper. Two, I'm gonna change the game. Nobody's having this, and they're like, "What is that? What are you drinking?"
You're gonna put them on, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna put people on. And so it started off like that. Like, I really want to see if I can find something that may be better, and then like, yeah, I'm the first one that has it. Yeah, nobody else is drinking this. So yeah, that was kind of what it was for me. I mean, how about you? I mean, what really?
It was hanging with your family for me.
That's awesome.
That's where I learned that all tequila is not bad.
Yeah.
I hear a lot, oh, you drink tequila. Oh, I was like, not the stuff we had in college. This is no Cuervo, no Mixto, no Gold.
Yeah.
The real legit tequila is what I learned from your family. And during the pandemic, you branched me out into whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been learning how to drink whiskey, and because at first it all burned. But
I have to confess, I have tried whiskey and I haven't found a whiskey that I like. Maybe I'm just not man enough. I don't know.
Oh no, we can work on that.
Yeah,
we can work on that.
Flight.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that is the key. Actually, if there's any tips I could give anyone that's getting into the space at all, is look for flights. So anytime you can go to a distillery or anytime you go to a bar or whatever, see if they have a flight of expressions, and that can kind of give you a guide. Because what you'll find out really quick is that, hey, I just don't like scotch.
Yeah.
Cool. You don't like that super smoky, that peaty stuff. Well, maybe you like bourbon. It's more on the sweeter side. Let's try that out. And
Okay.
you're like, oh, okay. I kind of like this bourbon. It's a little bit better, a little sweeter.
And distillers are a good way for a low price to try a lot of things.
I see.
Yeah.
I saw that you guys have toured places too, which I thought was really cool. Did you do that before you started the podcast? Or was that something that once you got into the podcast, you're like, okay, let's go out to these different places?
I
We actually
started
did it before.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
did it before.
Cool.
Just because we were interested in it. Anytime, especially locally here.
Yeah.
Our friends at Wonderful Distilling, they offered us a tour, and what they did is Saturdays? Every Saturday you can pay for a tour out there, and they have their full line, pretty much everything they have, and then they give you a tour, and you can really try some stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So tell me about the podcast. I know that even from the first episode I saw, branding was on point, merch was on point, everything was super cool. I was impressed. Tell me how you came up with the name and why a podcast that focuses around liquor.
Yeah, I mean, just from talking with our friends over the last 10, 15 years, it's just a lot of education was missing.
Mhm.
And so we wanted to talk about these spirits, put people on, but also educate them behind what's behind the label. How's it produced? What's the story? Why does this taste different than that? And so we just, after educating our friends, let's put it out to the mass. Let's see how other people feel. If we can teach others how to mindfully drink more responsibly, I think that's a good message.
Awesome. I think one of the things that I saw too was even like the glasses. On one of your episodes, you were talking about how the glass is like designed for specific like drinks and stuff like that, right?
It makes a huge difference, especially from whiskey to brandy, even to tequila. If you're sipping something that you're looking for some notes to come out of and really enjoy the nose and the palate, then you need a certain glass for that. Otherwise, I mean, even when they make mixed drinks at a bar, you notice there's certain types of glasses they'll serve it to you in. It's for a reason, so that you can get the full effect of it. And it's supposed to be an experience.
Yeah.
That's what I was taught, and I was like, okay, well, cool. Let's try it this way. And this is not meant to be chugged, or you're gonna miss all these notes.
Yeah, definitely.
We want to change drinking from shooting to, like I said, more mindful. So let's create a vibe. Let's create an experience and just chill and really think through what it is we're drinking.
How'd you come up with the name?
Oh man, that was a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
I think I had a whole list.
Yep, you had a list, and it was actually a handle that I had in college. Was like, I'm the liquor connoisseur. I would just say that,
Okay.
and it was just funny. And I was like, well, babe, what do you think about this? And she was like, yeah, let's add that to the list, and then we'll mull it over with these others. And
Yeah.
like, you know what? Ultimately, I think that's really cool because everybody our friends at least, they would say, man, you guys know a whole lot about alcohol. Like, where'd you get all this stuff from? It's like, well, I spent some time reading about it, and we just wanted to know. We were like sponges. Every time we'd Google and we'd go to the liquor stores, and then we recognized really quick that, oh man, these guys, they're getting to know us. Like the liquor say, hey, how's it going? What are you guys looking for? And it's like, well, I'm looking for a new brandy, or I'm looking for, you guys should try this out, yada, yada, yada. And we're like, we're not trying to look for the stuff that's in the commercials all the time.
Yeah.
Because the marketing is so strong that it will outpace the quality.
We gravitate towards what we're marketed
Yeah.
to. And so part of what we do is, we'll talk about some of the bigger brands, but we'll also introduce you to some of the smaller brands you may not have seen or saw at the store, but just weren't quite sure you wanted to buy. But the original name, going back, if I think about the original notes, was For the Love of All Things Alcohol.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we wanted to talk about all the different types and kind of put that in the title, but the Liquor Connoisseur is definitely the way to go.
Yeah. More condensed, easier to find.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
For the love of all things
Yeah.
alcohol. Yeah.
I like it. I like it. So do any of the places that you like sort of go to like stock up and everything, do they know you have a podcast now? Are they aware of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we stopped by the Well.
Yeah.
It's a local spot.
Awesome.
Right down the street from us, and they've been really good. Anytime they have, what they'll have is distilleries and stuff will come out and have their flights there and let you try out their full line of tequilas or whiskeys, and that's really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
That's actually how our Una Familia show, we got connected through the Well. They had a distributor come through, and we tried it and liked it, even bought a bottle.
Yeah.
And then we got connected with their one of their salespeople, and they were like, "Cool, we'd love for you to help promote," because it was new at the time, like maybe a year or two old, from produced out of Kansas.
Okay.
And we were like, yeah, we'd love to promote it on our show or review it. I wouldn't say promote, but we just had a good time filming that, all those expressions. It was really, really great.
It's awesome. So you're already building relationships and getting invited to places because of the podcast?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, man. We've noticed that the community is very open and kind. Like everybody's just awesome. I hadn't really found any bad apples in the space, and that was very refreshing for us because we were expecting something different. I don't know what, but usually you get some sort of pushback when you get into a space, and not all artists are really cool with each other. But something about the bartenders and the distributors and the liquor store personnel, all these
distilleries,
the distilleries, all these people just work very well together, and they're just friends. Like everybody's really cool. They do really good fundraisers. It's just awesome.
That's cool. So it just worked out that both of you guys were just into liquor, or was one like forcing the other, like, hey, get into this, or what?
I would say I was a little bit more into it.
Yeah.
She had her space. I think tequila was more of your space.
Oh, still is.
Yeah, it still is more of her
She's
space.
like, I'm the pro.
yeah. And cognac was more of my space, and it still is. I still favor cognac and brandy more than other liquor types, but I'm always open to something new, and even if it's a stretch for me, and I'm like, oh, I don't know about this,
Yeah.
because we're slowly but surely getting into the gins,
Yes.
and we're not the hugest fan of gin, but I actually like some of the expressions that we've had lately. I like it a lot because it's a huge difference, once again, to the education piece. Most people don't go past what their college experience was.
Right.
Many don't get past whatever their high school experience was.
Or what was in the top hit song.
Yeah,
True.
they're like,
That's
okay,
true.
I tried it and it was trash. Okay, so I'm done. And then you catch them at the bar and they say, cranberry and this. Or,
Cranberry
whiskey-
vodka.
Yeah,
right?
cranberry vodka. And they just, rattle off what's comfortable.
But
They're
I
like,
will
oh, I
say,
see it.
with the podcast, we know not everybody's ready to drink neat, or as we like to
Right.
say, just add the glass.
Just add the glass.
So we are catering to those who are beginning their journey or wanting to start over and forget about college. And we actually feature a mixed drink with a lot of the expressions that we review.
Okay, cool. Has there been a time that you review something? I imagine you always have to be super honest. And what if you don't like it, right? Like, what if you're working with the vendor or somebody, gave you as a gift, hey, put this on the pod. And what if you don't like it? That would be like my biggest like fear. Like, what am I going to say, right? Because you want to be super honest.
Yes.
Well, that falls into the category of, okay, so this is not just add the glass. Like, this might need some help.
Right.
And so
Okay.
we're like, okay, you don't have to pour it down the drain or nothing like that. Some of these things, they actually pub them out as pairing with club soda, pair with this or that, or you should, on the rocks, please do that, because if you don't, and you're like, oh, okay, so you guys are really not even intending for people to sip this neat. So who am I to force it?
Yeah.
I want to try it neat, but if I don't like it neat, it may not even been intended for that. They're like, hey, you should put a couple of drops of water in it. It'll open it up, and it does.
Okay.
That can make a big difference. But yeah,
But we're also connoisseurs, so we're not gonna go out and we're not gonna review screwball whiskey. I'm sorry. We're not.
What if they're like, hey, we've got this awesome promotion. We want to like sponsor an episode.
It would be interesting.
It'd be
to
tough.
see
I'm not a fan.
how much we talking. No,
I
we
just can't
stay
do it.
true.
Yeah, I can't do it. If I don't like it, I'm not gonna push for it. Now we do try things from time to time. We tried a rum recently. I'd never had this rum before, and I was like, well, okay, let me just try it out. And it was okay. I mean, I'm not the hugest fan of it, but it's a step in that direction. It's like, okay, I want something that's clean. It doesn't have all these extra additives, and you got to be careful about some of this stuff because they'll add in extra sugar that's unnecessary just to try to make
Coloring.
it palatable for people. They'll add food coloring and stuff to it.
Right.
And you're just like, man, why'd you have to do that? Like, if you would just make it how it's supposed to be made, don't add all that stuff, it'll make your brand better, but they're just trying to taste
Right.
good.
But the general public doesn't know that.
The general
right?
public
They don't know the
doesn't
tricks.
Which is-
right.
Yeah.
We try to educate on those tricks, bust some of the myths as we talk about the spirits. And when we do mix drinks, we try to make sure they're as clean as they can be.
Okay.
So we try to use. I think the last one we used was it poppy.
Yeah, like if we were going to use a soda, it's like, yeah, you don't have to use like Coca-Cola or
Right.
Sprite. It's like there are better soda-like options that are just cleaner. And if you're going to sip something that's organic and natural, just pair it with something else that's organic and natural, and just
Yeah, because even in that, a lot of people have their old faithful like orange juice or like you said, Coca-Cola. Or whatever.
Yeah.
And they just do that just out of habit.
out
right.
of habit. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, it just always goes well. It's like, yeah, and then here comes the headache.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah. So what's been like the biggest lesson maybe that you've learned now that you have a podcast? I'll tell you mine after you tell me yours.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just learned a new one when I got here. I'm like, I need to get better mics. I need to
Yeah.
get way better mics.
There's always like ways to level up. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't hold like
so many
equipment,
steps.
yeah.
Yeah, we're working on the equipment game here.
Yeah.
Editing. I mean, much goes out to you guys. I used to just consume your content and just be like, hey, man, that looks really cool and easy.
Right.
And it is not.
It's a lot of work.
It takes a lot of work. And our videos are substantially shorter than yours, of course. I mean, we're doing 10-minute, 20-minute episodes sometimes. And, and we're like, whew, after all this editing. So like really picking up the skill set and having the right tools is something that I'm learning.
I'm learning how to mix drinks.
Okay.
That's something that is such a skill, and we've made friends with great people in OKC that are professionals. So watching them and trying to be like, okay, I see that I never would have thought these ingredients would go together. Just getting that creative side. I like to be creative. So adding that mixed drink element to help bring in those newer connoisseurs and just to bring some creativity.
Awesome. So for me, one of the things that I learned, and maybe it's just because like I'm not as popular as you guys, but what I learned is like, before I launched my podcast, I would look at my friends list and I've got like 400, 500 friends, right? Like I'm going to put out a podcast. It's going to get 500 views easy out the gate. I put it out. It was like crickets.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Oh,
So
yes.
that's what I've learned. Like a lot of people aren't going to believe in your project. It's going to be like strangers probably that are going to gravitate towards your content versus your friends. It's kind of weird.
Very true.
It is. And we actually have our largest following, I think, is on LinkedIn.
Really?
That's the funny part. Well,
Yeah.
you're very popular on LinkedIn. in
I do
comparison.
have a lot of contacts.
Yeah, you have a lot
Yeah.
of contacts. So anytime we put something over there, it goes like wildfire.
Awesome.
It's like even TikTok is good. I mean, people get a lot of views there, but some of the others, you're just like, what is going on?
Yeah. That was just a lesson that I wasn't expecting to learn, right? Because you think out the gate, everybody's going to be like cheering for you. They're just going to watch it just because, they know you, but that's not the case. So that was a little hard.
Yeah. I thought that when we came out with the merch, I was like, oh, cool. We got all these friends. Sure,
Yeah.
they'll all.
No.
No. They're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, that's nice. Like, okay.
Right. We were talking about, celebrity tequila, celebrity drinks, and I've been amazed just like how much celebrities and even hip hop directly influences like brands and like the hype behind them, right?
Yeah.
Like, you think of even like Busta Rhymes back in the day, like Crevassier, stuff like
Yes.
that,
Yes.
right? Like, what do you guys think about that? Like the celebrity brands and like how much influence they can have?
By and large, I'm not a fan.
Not a fan?
I'm not a fan of it. Now, some are doing it right. My favorite artist is E40.
Okay.
And he happened to have a really decent cognac. I like that one, Tycoon. He has a good tequila that we'll be reviewing at some point. And he's actually doing it, I guess I would say, the right way. I mean, I feel like he's got his hands in it a little bit more and he has a quality product, but many times it's just, oh, cool, you rap or you play basketball.
Yeah.
Hold this bottle and
Yeah.
we'll stick your label on it.
like
Most of
to
the time it's that.
Yeah, I like to say Michael Jordan is the go to basketball, not the go to tequila.
No.
Yeah. And
The bottle looks cool too. That's
No,
another thing,
That's
right?
a key. If
Right.
the bottle is beautiful,
Right.
the liquid probably is not as great.
yeah, I kind of, as odd as that is, like actually somebody in the liquor store told us that too. They were like, man, if that bottle looks really outrageous,
Yeah.
the juice is probably trash. And even if they just charge you, oh, this is $100 bottle. And you're thinking, it's got to be $100 good because the bottle looks great.
Right.
And the marketing behind it, well, they got to pay all that. They have to pay for that. And then the juice can be $20 juice.
But that's another myth that, the higher the price, the better
Right.
quality the spirit. And that's not true either.
Yeah. And that's another deal we're trying to do. We're like, man, you don't have to pay $50 for this artist alcohol. They're probably getting it from a source that is selling that at $30 or something like that in their line. And so it's really pointless. You're doing it to just look cool, like you
Right.
have this bottle. It's a status thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast last week. I forget what's the brand that Jay-Z was involved with, but this was before social media. And the guy was talking about, he was like the founder of like the liquor. And he said that they happened to notice that one of their bottles was in the Jay-Z music video. And they noticed that their sales was like going up that week because of that.
Okay.
And this was prior to like social media and everything like that. So they just had like in one of the office, they had the TV going on MTV. And they're like, they play the same music video. So the Jay-Z video is going to come on. And I'm going to show you guys that they have the bottle. And they stood there until they saw it. Then they reached out to Jay-Z like, hey, I don't know. I can't remember what liquor, but he had an exit recently where he just like cashed out on that liquor.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it the champagne?
Was it
Ace of Spades?
Maybe.
It
that
may have
sounds
been the
right.
Ace of Spades because
Yeah.
I think he used to pub out a really big Don P probably
Okay.
was probably something he pubbed out. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Ace of Spades was his big deal. He may have sold that out. But I never got to drink any of that because it was way too expensive for me.
Yeah. The other thing that they were talking about is like you were saying, like the big bottles, that's kind of like a hack because if you make your bottle big, like the places have to have your bottle up at the top because it doesn't fit within the shelves.
Yep.
And even at the liquor store too, it has to be at the top. So then you get like that premium space, right? Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah.
Premium
So
space. Yep.
look
that
at your
works.
1942 from Don
Yeah.
Julio, your Avion 44, Sincoro even.
Yes. Sincoro definitely did that. Their bottle is huge. It's one
Yeah.
of the biggest ones on our shelf. Like you said, the 1942, Avion.
Can't miss 'em.
You can't
Right.
miss them because once they get up like this, it's just
And that's the thing too. I could see also from a marketing perspective, if you're at a club and you're buying a bottle for the table, they're bringing the bottle, you kind of want it to look cool,
Yeah.
right? Like if they just bring a regular bottle, it's not going to be as impressive. So I can see why the hype and the marketing behind the bottles, but most people don't sort of correlate that a cool looking bottle doesn't mean it's high quality stuff inside of it.
And don't forget the case or the coffin.
True.
yeah,
like to
yeah.
say.
Put it in
Yeah.
a case and then make the case big too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. So you guys aren't a fan any celebrity
Like
liquor?
I said, I like E40 stuff.
Okay.
It's pretty good.
Digo, I think that's George Strait. That's actually not too bad.
Yeah.
It depends on how in front is the celebrity. There's a difference between owning and investing versus being that person that is the marketing of that spirit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Why did you decide sort of like, let's do a podcast? Was it just education or was it just, hey, we already love this stuff. Like, let's just, put our love together and like put it out there so people, sort of see what we're into,
It was both of those for me.
Both of those?
Like we have a genuine love for it. And honest, we've been doing this off camera.
Yeah,
for
that's true.
years.
Yeah.
So we really do love it. And people would always tell us, man, that's great, man. I really appreciate it. Man, you're the reason why I do it this way and why I bought these glasses to match up with this cognac that I drink and I
Awesome.
smoke my cigar with it. And you're the reason why I do it. Oh, okay, cool. Well, how about we scale that up and just reach a few more people, a couple of followers, and that would be great. And that's probably one of the biggest ones for me. The education is top though, because like I said earlier, people get stunted. They get stuck where they were in college and they don't want to grow from there. And then
Right.
what they do is they'll just follow, oh, this bottle costs $200 and it has something at the top of it or something on the side of it that's
People
really
think You
neat.
just have to drink when something bad happens, or
Yeah.
you just got to shoot it real fast. And
True.
you don't.
That's what I
have
always
to.
hear about tequila. Like they're always like prepared to like, give me a lime, give me something that I can
Yeah.
like chase it down with.
Yeah.
It's like not all tequila's like that.
No, that makes my tequila order very fun when I go out. Sometimes I'm like, I just want tequila neat. And
Yeah.
they're like, so you want that with lime? And so,
Yeah. Do
just
you want
neat.
the salt on the brim?
Right,
Everything, right?
I'm just bottle to glass.
Yeah.
It's hilarious how often that happens. Like when we go and they're like, oh, so you have this. Sweet. Can I get that neat in a glass, in a rocks glass? And they're like, okay, so you want a shot or you want
They're
would
not
you
used to it.
And they're like, no, I don't want it dressed at all. I don't need no rim, no lime. It should stand on its own. Okay, cool. Let's do that. And they're like, oh, okay.
And part of being neat is not just to make a statement. It's I want to know what it is I'm drinking, even before if I were to mix it. What notes am I getting so I know what to pair with it.
True.
Yes.
Yeah. So walk me through that process because I've seen you guys where you do the little sniff and you get a
Yes.
little swirl. Like walk me through the process. What's the proper way to like taste liquor and appreciate everything?
It's actually a part of our.
Oh, it's part of the
Yeah,
merch?
part of the
Yeah.
merch,
Okay,
man.
there we go.
So
Yeah,
you
man.
know,
You gotta swirl, sniff, sip, and then savor. So we'll take it, and of course, this is not the ideal glass. You don't. Want
My bad.
yeah.
I'm still learning here.
No, you're good. This is a reminder of being stuck in
College.
high school, college. Yeah. So
Yeah.
with the proper glass, you want to swirl it around a little bit and let it open. And I encourage people in one of the episodes, and probably a couple now, when you do sniff a tequila or any kind of hard liquor, you want to open your mouth a little bit. That way the alcohol doesn't get bunched up in your head. And that's where you get that stinging, burning sensation.
Okay.
It won't do that if your mouth is open a little. And you just get a couple of smells of it and sit it down, breathe on that for a minute, and just try to figure out what you're getting. And it's usually going to be some form of caramel, vanilla.
that's all for
Maybe
the barrel a lot of time.
A lot of the barrel impact will do that. Sometimes you get notes of apple. Stuff like that will come out. And then you just go back to it again and see what else you might get, and
Yeah. So
then
what
you get in.
another thing you'll notice is we don't just take one sip, because the more you drink it, you're gonna get something different. And letting it sit after a while, it'll change it a little bit.
Okay.
Drop of water, change it a little bit.
Really?
Ice cube, change it a little bit.
Okay.
Yes. And actually, the ice cube, another reason why we'll say just add the glass is like, well, alcohol can be a lot like food in a sense. So the colder it is, the less aromatic it will be. Just like, oh, I want this food to be warm. That way it smells really good. It's not hot, but you want it to be, where you can get all those notes.
Yeah.
Ice will actually chill that down and it won't let it be as aromatic. People ice things that they really don't like. You need to have Everclear as cold as possible because that alcohol is going to burn you to death if it's just out here hot. And so what we noticed, especially in college, is people were like putting bottles in the freezer.
Okay.
All their vodkas and stuff were in the freezer.
That's just like ruining it? Or
Yeah,
what?
it's not that it's ruining it. It changes it and tones down all the flavors.
Yeah.
That alcohol will not be as bright.
Does it go back though? Or is it like once it's chilled, it's like changed forever? Or what?
I don't think it does that to the clear liquors as much. I would say maybe if you were to notice a change, it would be something aged.
Got it.
I wouldn't want to freeze and thaw that too many times, but
You can't freeze it.
yeah. But I mean, I wouldn't want to chill it down below 32 degrees and then bring it back up a lot of times, especially if it's a corked spirit. You got to worry about the contraction of the cork. Another deal we brought up, having as many bottles as we have, it's important to tip those bottles periodically, or else the cork will actually shrink to the point where the alcohol
Because it
will leak.
dries up.
It will dry up.
Got it.
So like a synthetic cork, like on this 818,
Mm-hmm.
that will actually hold up longer than like a real organic wood cork. Those wood corks, they look really cool. They have all those little tiny holes in them.
Yeah.
And what will happen is the alcohol is not touching that, and so it's just going to continue to contract until eventually the seal breaks.
Oh, wow.
And then now you're
See, most people don't know that. Most people probably buy a bottle and they save it for a special occasion.
Yeah.
And it's like just sitting there for probably years.
I discourage that.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if you're going to save one, buy two. I think you should try everything you pick up. If you haven't had it in the bars or you couldn't find it and you see it on the shelf magically, if you feel like you don't want to drink one, buy two. If you can, just buy two because you should try it. You should enjoy that.
And then sometimes you never know, something that might be a limited release, and you should just try it. Or they may do a label change.
Yeah.
So you guys don't wait to like a special occasion. If you like something, you want to just have it just because it's like a Friday or whatever.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything we've had it at some point. Even if we had it in a bar, we've been to some really nice mezcal bars, tequila bars, and picked up some good expressions. And we're like, oh, okay. Well, now I have it. This is great. And then you can enjoy it later or whatever. But I wouldn't sit. Because what happens is people will buy something very expensive and they'll sit on it forever. And it's like, well, whoever you would give that to, they're not going to enjoy it and respect it as much as you. I mean, it's just not.
And like you said, if the cork sort of breaks, the sort of, it's going to be like changed, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's a waste.
And then don't open it and then try to really save it as well because of the oxidation.
Yes. And so like if a bottle, once it gets, halfway down or so, now you've got a whole lot of oxygen in there and it will oxidize the spirit and change it. Okay. At first, it may not be that big of a deal. It might actually help it some. And then after a while, you wind up with something that's,
oh man.
Yeah, it is trash. And then, because actually that happened to one of my bottles and I opened it up. I let it get real low and didn't finish it. I just set it back, went on to something else, should have finished it. When it gets down to the corner, finish it, please. Don't wait because it will turn into trash.
So is there like a shelf life, like once you open it, or even if you haven't opened it, like how long can you store liquor for?
The shelf life is pretty good as long as it's unopened and you monitor it. You tip it every now and then. The ones that are dipped in wax will hold up longer, obviously. I mean, because there's nothing going in there. But after you open it, man, that's a good question. I mean, it's not milk, but I wouldn't want to sit there and come back.
I'm thinking over here. I'm like, I'm scared now. I probably need to go tip some bottles.
Yeah,
I need to go see what's like halfway. I need to like finish stuff.
And that's why I encourage people to make infinity bottles of some of your whiskeys. I wouldn't mix like a whiskey with a vodka or nothing like that. But if you have 3 or 4 whiskeys and they're pretty much very similar. Like they're 3 or 4 bourbons and they're pretty low. It'd be better for you to put all those in one bottle.
Really?
They wouldn't go out as fast because it'd be less air in that one bottle as opposed to the 4 that they're in.
Awesome.
So that's kind of
Cool.
start.
I'm over here taking notes. I'm learning left and right here. So what does the swirl do? It introduces some air.
Yes.
Does it like open up? And,
It does
like,
open
change
up.
the flavor. What does it do?
What happens is you'll get some of the spirit will cling around the glass and dry down a little quicker. Another deal that we bring up is when you finish your alcohol beverage and you set your glass out, don't rinse it out right away, especially if it's something new to you. Set it out for a little bit, let it dry down, come back to it in about an hour. And what you'll realize is that the alcohol is pretty much all gone. And the notes that people claim that they're getting, they say, oh, I tasted this and this, that, and other. You're like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it actually is in there. When they say, oh, it's got notes of chocolate, notes of coffee, it's like you will get those notes once it dries down a little bit more.
Okay.
And people that have really, really refined palates, even more so than myself, they can pick that stuff up really easy. The sommeliers are like, oh, yeah, I get all this. And they'll list off like 13 things. And you're like, wow, I just smell alcohol.
Right.
And yeah.
And part of the swirl is also you see the legs. You see how it draws on that glass, how it comes down.
So what are the legs? The legs are like alcohol content. Like what is it that you're seeing? Like you're seeing it sort of drip down right in the glass, but like what does that mean? If it drips fast or if it drips slow?
It's
like,
a
what's the
viscosity
difference?
thing, man. It can give you a heads up to what the mouthfeel is going to be like. So often you'll hear people talk about the mouthfeel. Has an oily mouthfeel or whatever. The viscosity is really high or really low. Something that lingers on the palate, you'll see like it doesn't drip down as fast. It actually clings to the glass a little bit, and you're like, oh, I'm in for a treat. This is going to be decadent. Like this is going to hold on. This is going to be worth the money.
So you want something? I always hear people say like, oh, it has nice legs or whatever.
Yeah.
You want something, or it really depends on the liquor. Like, what is it that you?
I would say for a default for me, I want my spirit to linger. I want to be able to, I've set it down and I walk away from it and you're like, it's still coming back. Like it's no burn, all that's gone. And all I get is those flavors. I get the praline, I get the caramel, I get this. And you're like, man, this is like Thanksgiving. This is like a pie almost. Like it's, you get some of that out of there.
Yeah.
If it has that viscosity, otherwise it'll just basically burn off and you're just like, oh, okay. That was a nice little ride. Real quick and easy.
Yeah.
That's funny. You know, what I always sort of feel intimidated when I'm at a fancy restaurant, they bring a bottle and they sit there, they open it, they pour like just a little bit for you to like do the whole like sniff and taste it, right? And they're waiting for your reaction. I have never sent a bottle back or it said it's horrible. I was like, this is great. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Pour some more. Have you guys ever like sent a bottle back or like not impressed or anything like that?
Yes.
Yes.
Especially with tequila.
Really?
Especially living in Oklahoma.
Okay.
I'll be like, okay, what kind of tequilas do you have? I don't know. Let me check. Okay. Then they come back. We got Patron. I'm like,
Yeah.
So does everybody else.
right.
Right.
I've had that and I'm here for a different experience.
I'm above that now.
Yeah.
that Patron is actually another college one. But yeah, it's just our selections typically are like, I'm like, you know what? I'll just have water sometimes.
Yeah.
Or
Really?
if I go to a really great place like somewhere downtown, I'm like, oh, I haven't tried that one. Let me get that. Or
Awesome. Yeah, I always like, and that's another point too, is like sometimes you go to places and they don't have a big selection. They just have like the people that recognize the brands, like you said, the Patron or like Grey Goose vodka, stuff like that.
That's
just
exactly
the people
what
that
they'll have.
notice, right? Yeah.
That's what they'll have. And what's weird to me is they won't have anything that I would consider somewhere in the middle. They'll just say, oh, well, I have, I guess this would be very, very low middle. We have 1800 and then we have Patron. And it's just like, you don't have anything.
at least give me a Don Julio
Yeah.
in the middle.
I don't have anything in between that is not just clearly pubbed out. And that's why we enjoy going to like a real bar that might have plenty of expressions. And then you're like, okay, cool. But if you're looking for something good, I don't know, just throw something in the air at a Chili's or something like that.
Right.
Like that type of restaurant, you won't find it.
Yeah.
They'll have 2 vodkas, 2 whiskeys.
Is that like
And
a
then that's-
distribution thing? Because maybe some of the unknown brands can't get that space, or like what causes that?
That's more of a distribution thing
popularity.
within the liquor stores to what brands you get.
Okay.
At restaurants, it's typically I've seen restaurants with stuff I haven't seen in the liquor store. So I don't feel like it's a distribution thing there, but it's just what's popular.
I see.
What's selling? Who are we marketing to in our restaurant?
Yeah. If I know all I'm going to make is 1,000 Jack and Cokes today, I'm going to have unlimited amounts of Jack.
True.
That's what I'm going to have. And I'm not going to bring in anything else because nobody knows what that is.
Yeah, most people probably won't even question.
They
like,
won't
the
even
brand,
question
right?
it. And many people, they'll get a drink and it's a well drink, technically. It's just like, oh, this is our well whiskey, our well vodka, our well.
You can tell a lot about a restaurant based on their well drinks.
Yeah.
What
We'll
the well
ask them,
spirits
what are you making it with? And actually, they'll treat you different for that. It's like,
Really?
okay, so let me get a rum and Coke. Say that.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay, cool. And they'll get ready to head back and get you something off the shelf. And you're like, well, what do you make it with? And they're like,
They're like, nobody's asked us.
Nobody
let me
asked
go
us.
check with the manager.
Yeah, nobody asks us what we make it with. Or if they know, they'll say, oh, yeah, we make it with, I don't know, Captain Morgan. Just throw that out there. We make it with Captain Morgan. And you're like, okay, which one? And they're like, the one that everybody buys. Okay, Captain Morgan. Boom. You're like, do you have any other rums? And they're like, okay, let me get back with you. You know, then they're like, oh, this person actually cares about what they're consuming. This is actually pretty cool. I didn't even know we had that. I've heard that before. Like, I didn't know we didn't, you know. I'm like, oh, sweet. We've been places and they didn't even know how to charge us for what they had.
Oh, wow.
We've been literally like, because they're so used to selling a certain brand to mix with something. And you're like, oh, well, I see that you have this on the shelf. It's not on the menu yet.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh,
nobody's ever asked us about that.
Nobody's ever asked us for that. The owner just brought that in. We don't even have a SKU. It's not even really skewed in.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, shoot, I'll charge you what we charge for the other stuff. And next thing you know, you're trying something that may be 2 or 3 times more expensive. So it pays to kind of look at what they're serving. If you can, if you're in a bar situation where you can just look at what they're serving and they're making drinks, it's a good idea.
And just going back to tequila, I mean, there's like 4 additives they can add up to 1% each of.
Okay.
And they don't have to tell you.
Really?
Yeah. So that's why a lot of tequilas that you'll see that we review, I've done some research. They're going to be additive free unless I just missed it somewhere. We're going to make sure there's no extra, they can add extra agave, glycerin. They're just coloring.
Yes. Especially when you get into the reposados and the añejo, what they'll try to do is add something, because people will look at it and say, oh, that's an añejo. It needs to be a certain color.
Right.
I'm looking for it to be this darker color, at least like this amber color. And then from there, and then, so they'll say, well, shoot, it looks more expensive. We'll just add 2 or 3 more drops of this.
And it's just like food coloring or something.
Basically, and you're just like, wow, and you don't have to do that. You're doing it for the marketing and for.
And you really can't go by color because there are light reposados, dark ones. It just it's all in how they age it.
Yeah, that's funny. So that's a lot to learn. I could see where it would be intimidating. So I'm glad you guys are doing this. Have you ever done like any like pop-up events where you go to a liquor store or a restaurant or something and maybe shot the podcast there? I think that would be kind of cool.
No, but that
we haven't. We'll put that on. Yeah. That'd be great.
That would be
really
cool.
Good.
And then you're kind of the pro when it comes to like the mixed drinks and stuff like that. Is that right? Or?
Between us, yes.
Yeah. I am terrible with that. That's a part of the reason why I'm just add the glasses, because I don't know how to mix it to begin with.
I think that's cool too, because like for me, I don't really have like a signature drink, right? Like everybody has like maybe like a go-to drink, right? And I still haven't found like something that I can order everywhere and then it's going to be solid, right? Like you said, it's always like something like, you know, vodka, Red Bull, or vodka, cranberry. Like that can't be my signature drink, right? So it's like, I don't know. I think having those mixed drinks would be kind of cool.
You really should. You should always have a good base spirit. You know, if I go out, I don't see a tequila, maybe there's a mezcal. I can switch that out. Or if they don't have a tequila I like, maybe I'll do a mixed drink and I'll do an old fashioned.
Yep. That's my go-to mixed drink is an old fashioned. You really can't miss with that. It's especially perfect. It's good year round, but in the winter it starts to really give you what you need.
Yeah.
You've got the sweet in there, you got the orange peel. It's very aromatic. It's a beautiful drink. So if I had to pick one for you to look into, old fashioned, and just pay attention to what they make it with, and go to a really good bar that can make you a great one.
And do you want to ask like what type of liquor they use for the old fashioned?
Absolutely,
Yes.
Yeah.
Man. I'd say they're usually going to make it with a rye whiskey, an old fashioned. You say, oh, so which rye are you using? And they'll be like, oh, well, sounds like you care. We're using this Templeton, or we're using Bullet. That's typically the one they'll use.
Okay.
And making note of that, you're like, oh, okay, well, I like this old fashioned. What whiskey did they use? Okay, well, let me try that, see how that is. I might actually like that whiskey.
Yeah.
Or if I don't, and I find one that I do like, a rye whiskey, if I see it at the bar and they make old fashions, I want my old fashioned with that. And so I've done that before too. I'm like, oh, you have this. Can you make my old fashioned with that? And they're like, sure. They're like,
Pay
sweet. This is
attention
great.
to what syrups they're using as well.
Yeah.
Are they making them in house? Are they, straight off the shelf, something that's been sitting there for a while?
Yeah.
Think about those things as well.
Cool. Do each of you have a signature drink? Like, what's your go-to? I'm curious to hear.
My favorite is old fashions, pretty much full stop. I like them. That would be my
Awesome.
Tequila neat.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm learning. I haven't. If I go to a really great bar, I will get something mixed, but it's usually something on like a seasonal menu, something that you only get like during that time of year.
So never like a mojito or anything like that.
she's probably not going to do that.
Yeah.
I guess you could say like if there's a hot toddy involved.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
hot
yeah.
toddies are
Yeah.
wonderful, especially now.
Yeah. So we are coming around the holidays. What, like, if you're wanting to like bring something to maybe impress a family member, or not maybe necessarily impress, but maybe just have something that they can enjoy. Like, what are some of your recommendations there for people to sort of bring to that party?
A bottle
Apple
of
cider.
Yes, I was going to be different, but yes, cider is definitely one. That's one we're bringing around
Yeah.
to the family for the holidays. I like to do a Honeycrisp apple cider, cinnamon, cloves, and finish it with a nice whiskey.
Okay. So you bring the ingredients and then you're mixing it on the spot.
Yeah. Because some people
Yeah.
are not gonna. They're just gonna want
Yeah.
apple cider,
Yeah.
which is fine, and we'll have our Spite.
Yeah.
And then also, I think a good bottled in bond is good to bring to celebrate. They're not that expensive. They're usually less than $40-$50. Somewhere
A
between
lot
like
of them are
20 and
less
50.
than $40, and bottle and bond is actually something that you can pretty much guarantee that they're all at least 4 years old. It's
It's regulated.
100 proof, so that's 50% alcohol. So they have to check off a lot of boxes, and so it's a more regulated spirit, higher quality, but it's just not getting pubbed out because everybody's either, I need to drink something that's about 40%, because anything higher than that is ouch. That's typically what people think.
That's
Yeah.
a myth.
And yeah, which is a myth. Or I'm going for something that is cash strength. It's got to be 130 proof or whatever, because, oh man. And that's also the reason why that's really popular. And so you got to pay $80 for those. And when the bottle and bond is every bit as good, half the price. So I would draw more attention to bottle and bond spirits. That's
Okay.
that would be my go-to. Yeah.
And it's something you can educate on.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I would look that up.
So how do you guys stay up to date? Because I imagine, like anything else, there's trends, there's things that are changing all the time. How do you stay informed? Like, what all these different brands, what's good, what's not? I feel like that's a full-time job.
We
It
watch
is.
other podcasts. We also read a lot of articles. We look at the different competitions. Okay, who medaled? What's new this year? And then we look at the trends. We laugh at some of them.
I bet.
Like, who knew Sunny D needed to be an alcoholic beverage?
That's the thing. Like the whole like sparkling thing is like
Yes.
out of control, right?
Yes, Sunny
Yeah.
D.
Using a milk frother to open up
Yes.
whiskeys. That was another one that was pretty wild. I tried it. It didn't work out well for me. Maybe I didn't do it long enough. I don't know. So I wasn't a fan.
If you're trying to alter the spirit that much, because if you're using a milk frother, usually it's to mix the ingredients better in a mixed drink.
Mhm.
But if you need to froth your whiskey, you probably shouldn't be drinking.
It's not a good sign. Yeah. I have noticed too that like people were like maybe trying to be more healthy and stuff like that, right? So are there any brands that I guess you can't really say healthy, right? But maybe are based more organic ingredients or like stuff like that if people want to like gravitate towards that kind of stuff.
So one of the things we just learned, Belvedere has gone organic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they just did their regular vodka. They had already had in the last year or two released a organic botanical line, which we just reviewed. Who else? There's a lot of brands that are organic now. You're starting to see a few that have nutritional labels.
I like that, by the way.
Yes.
That's really awesome when they give you the nutrition facts for alcohol. I'm like, oh, okay, it's almost like you care a little.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially when you see, organic. It has not just sugar added to give it the flavor of apples and all that good stuff. They're actually using apples, and it's like, okay, this is a whole lot.
A lot of your
better.
infusions, like I say, vodka has grown up. So they're actually using real ingredients in the flavors now.
Awesome. But they're not required like any other food product to put the ingredients?
Oh no,
No, it's recommended.
Okay.
But there's talk that they're going to make that a rule, but it hasn't come out yet.
Interesting. Okay. One of the things I always ask my guests is if I were to pull up your playlist, who am I going to find on your playlist? So I'm going to put each of you on the spot. Whoever wants to go first.
You're going to find a mix of 90s and 2000s R&B.
Yeah. Awesome.
You're going to find her, Amber Marks, who else? Brian McKnight.
Okay. I
I've
like it.
I've got a whole list of R&B.
90s hip hop for me. Some of the 2000 stuff works too. Favorite artist is E40.
Awesome.
So E40 Too Short, any of those artists.
From the Bay.
Yeah, Bay
Yeah.
Area.
Sorry,
How'd you get into West Coast music? Just
Oh man, it was so popular, man. I loved it as a kid, just growing up listening to all of it, man. Those were my artists that I cling to.
Awesome.
Snoop, all of that. I was definitely West Coast, not East Coast. That was my thing.
yeah. Snoop just did a big stunt on social media. I don't know
Oh,
if
I
you
love
saw
it.
it.
That was
He was like,
beautiful.
I'm going to stop smoking. Everybody
Yes.
was freaking out.
It was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I no longer smoke because of the.
It was like a Weber
It's
grill.
a solo stove.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah, I was like, okay, that's cool. That's
Now
really
that's
smart.
marketing right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
I didn't know if it was like a health thing. I was like, maybe like something health related.
Yeah,
or
it's
something.
about 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we should say we're going to stop drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, they got us.
Do you guys ever get tired? I'm sure now people know that you're doing the podcast. They probably call you up, maybe even from the liquor store. Hey, what should I pick up? Can you walk me through? What am I looking at? What's good? And you guys get tired of those calls or no?
What I notice is like, I don't get tired of the calls. I actually like it. Some of my friends, they'll call and say, hey man, I just want to know, just give me 3 tequilas, man. Or give me 3 rums, or give me 3 this, and then I can branch out and go over here. It's like, just like we used to do. Okay, cool. Yeah. And so I'll do that. Give them some names of stuff, and it's like, let's just stay away from the super advertised stuff, because that was one of our rules. It's like, even when we would host tastings at our house, and people would bring bottles over, we would just tell them, hey, stay away from the bottom shelf, and then also don't bring Smirnoff. Just we've had it.
Bring something you've never had or you think no one else has had.
And I encourage other people to do the same. It's if you're going to get together and you're going to have a party or something, and people, hey, what can I bring? It's like, well, bring something that you don't think we have all the time.
Right.
Like, it just, oh, let's bring some Hennessy. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I'm sure you've had it. Like a lot of people have.
Yeah.
There are other versions of that.
Yeah. And those parties are a great way to stock your bar. Because no one wants to ride home with an open container.
And they
Right.
won't. Typically, they'll bring something and we'll get it down to about that level. And they're like, okay, yeah, keep that.
Keep
because
it.
we discourage open container travel. We also discourage drinking and driving. That is-
Connoisseur knows their limit.
They know their limits, and Uber and Lyft are there for a reason. So, yeah, that helps.
Has there ever been a time that a company has reached out and like they didn't like what I understand that there's like a cease and desist story there. I don't know if that's related to the podcast or not.
It's
but-
separate from the podcast.
Okay.
From the
Another
podcast,
endeavor
but
that we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of our goals is to have our own spirit brand.
Awesome.
So came up with a name, just wanted to kind of put it out there for future use, trademark it, for intended use. And it was going to be Barrel Run Bourbon. And I was like, cool. Had the attorney draw it up, submit it. Week later, cease and desist letter from Barrel Bourbon.
Oh, wow.
They're basically like, you need to stop. And I'm like, it's just an idea.
You're like, it's not even a product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I felt honored.
Yeah.
I framed that one day.
Okay. That's awesome.
And use that as fuel for when I do have when we do have our own brand,
Yeah.
and you'll
Okay.
buy some of their bourbon just to make sure mine tastes better.
Yeah. Awesome. I just didn't know if that was related to like the podcast. One of the people reaching out and saying, "Hey, we don't like the review. We don't like what you said there, or anything like that."
That was the only time that we got a distillery's legal team reached
Yeah.
out to us, because they're probably great guys over there. Usually the distillers and the distributors, they're just great people.
But it made sense. The
yeah,
way
it
they
makes
labeled
sense, yeah.
their expressions, I could see why they felt that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there was no heartache there.
There's
no
no
heartburn.
malice.
Yeah. I understand completely. But it was, these people are very serious about their craft. Many people in this space. And so they have a team, many teams that scour the internet for,
Yes.
anything. And they check and they're like, I don't want you in my space. Not like that.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you should totally frame that. That's like,
Yeah, it's going to happen.
That's an accomplishment.
It might be in the background of
Yeah.
the video. At one point.
That'd
It's
be
like,
awesome.
yeah, you see this?
Maybe we'll review them and put it in the back.
There you go.
Well, yeah, we need to pick up a couple of their expressions anyhow, man. I bet it's decent.
Yeah, that's one of the questions I had. So if I'm thinking of like sort of the logistics and the cost of running the podcast, if you're always reviewing a liquor, that's going to be kind of expensive, especially once you get to those like, top shelf type stuff.
Oh, yeah.
What has been sort of like the strategy behind that?
Well, we've been going with what we have.
Yes.
Okay.
And so we started out, I mean, the bottles didn't come overnight. We've had them many of them for several years.
Many of them are still unopened.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and many unopened. And so we're like, we're sitting on this, and we need to do something with it, because we don't drink often, and it's usually get-togethers when we do, when we host, and so we already have like the inventory, if you will, to use. Now, anytime there's something new that comes out, I mean, we just go out and we just go get it.
Grab
We're
it.
like, hey, we just want to try this out and see what happens.
But we have been fortunate, especially with at least one of the local distilleries. We've gotten a few bottles for free.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's always
cool.
nice. So to all brands, we will review if you
You're
send it to
open,
us.
yeah.
Yeah, we
We're
review.
open, and we will be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're lucky too. We have some really good friends. I've had some great coworkers that just they just give us gifts. I mean, Christmas, birthdays. Hey, check this out. And we're like, sweet.
People really know what we're into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
Cool.
always an easy gift. It's feel
And
like,
that's the other phone call we get is, okay, I'm thinking about getting y'all this. Do y'all have this one? Or I know y'all ain't got this. I'm gonna bring this over.
yes,
It's awesome.
yes.
I could see even that be a potential for future shows. Like if someone wants to plug their business or whatever, hey, come on to the podcast, bring your favorite liquor. We'll open it
Yes.
together and
And
talk
try it
about
out,
it.
yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
That would be dope.
So it sounds like we need to do an episode with you.
Hey, I'm down. Hopefully you don't call my babies ugly. I'm kind of afraid.
No.
I'll prep myself. Cool. So what are the goals? We are getting the signal here. We're running out of time. I want to give you some space to maybe, mention the goals for the podcast. And of course, plug in your website, social media, everything where people can find you.
Yeah. So our goal is just to educate and create an experience around alcohol. It doesn't have to be negative. You don't have to wait for a special occasion.
Yeah.
Just create a vibe, create an experience, and enjoy. Be mindful with it.
Yes, and enjoy what you drink, like fully, like, get the nose of it. Don't just go through it and rush. People try to rush these experiences, and then they're not an experience. And then just like, oh, you just want to drink to get drunk, and we don't do that. We discourage it. We want people to enjoy it. It should be like a great meal with friends.
Yeah.
That's what-
Yeah. And we also have a blog to further the education where we talk a little bit more in depth about the background.
Okay.
And so you can find that on our website, theliquorconnoisseur.com.
Cool.
And also our merchandise. We have a spring store, which there's also a link to that on our website as well.
Awesome. What about social media? Where can they find you?
Yeah, we are on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at The Liquor Connoisseur.
Okay.
And then you can also find us on LinkedIn at The Liquor Connoisseur.
Cool. I like it. You were talking a little bit about like, buy one and then buy another one to stock.
Mhm.
That kind of gave me flashbacks. I'm into shoes, so I kind of do that
Okay.
sometimes too. And so
Same
it's-
thing.
I don't know. It could be a slippery slope.
Well,
I don't know if I want to get into this.
Hey,
with you
if
guys.
you want to wear a pair of shoes, and you want to put one up because it's special,
Yeah, right.
you're gonna have to buy.
And
two.
that's what I mean. Bourbon is so allocated these days. So
Yeah.
if you find a
lot of
good
them.
one, it could become allocated someday, or the price might triple.
Yeah. If I ever had a regret when it came to alcohol, it would be walking past some bottles thinking, no big deal. 10 years later, oh, that's allocated. You can't get it now.
Oh, man.
They're like,
It's a new way to
Oh, really?
invest.
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Well, I want to thank you guys. I have no doubt it's going to be successful. I'm already impressed. All the episodes I've seen, your setup, everything. It's only up from here. So I want to wish you continued success. And anytime you guys want to, stop by the podcast, we can talk about music, because I think there's also a connection of like maybe a certain type of music lends to it's a certain type of liquor, and maybe when you're feeling a certain way, like I think that a lot of pairing and stuff like that. So we can definitely geek out about all that stuff too.
Be great.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you both.
Thank you.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the super talented Crystal and Roger, the Liquor Connoisseur. Thank you for being on the Maverick Podcast. Keep grinding, because in dreams we trust.